I stumbled across my sister's hidden income, the damage she caused to my property, and the way she was taking advantage of me. So I finally kicked her out and filed for compensation. I don't know how to start this without sounding harsh, but here it is. For the last 6 years, my sister Jess, 25, has been living with me, her 27-year-old brother who works in IT. It all started because I wanted to step up as the older sibling, and it got out of control. Back when Jess was 19, she got pregnant. I won't go into details, but the situation wasn't good. She didn't have much support, and our mom, who raised us as a single parent, wasn't in a place financially or emotionally to help. So I offered Jess a place with me. At that time, I had just bought my own house. 3 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I had worked and saved for years, and it felt like a solid foundation. Jess was only supposed to stay a few months until she figured things out. I helped out with the baby at night when I could, tried to make her feel safe. But months turned into years, and then suddenly it was 6 years. At least Jess wasn't completely useless. She kept her part of the house tidy, pitched in with groceries sometimes, and looked after shared spaces once her first kid grew older. But she never paid rent, not once. At the beginning, I didn't want to bring it up. Asking a single mom for money felt wrong. Over time, her life became very comfortable. While living with me, she even had a second child. Don't ask about the dad. And my house went from being a short-term shelter to a permanent setup. My nephews thought of it as their home. I guess part of me kept letting it happen because I felt responsible. Our childhood hadn't been easy. Mom tried, but we grew up poor. I'd always promised myself that once I was stable, I'd help my family. And truth be told, I love my nephews. They're good kids, even if they're noisy and tear up the yard sometimes. 2 years ago, I met Amy, now my wife, 26. She's amazing, and from the start, she understood Jess's situation. She didn't push me about it, but every so often she'd ask, "Do you think Jess will ever get her own place?" Still, she was patient because she knew it was complicated. When Amy moved in last year, things shifted. Sharing a house with another woman and 2 children isn't easy. Jess and Amy were polite at first, but there was an unspoken tension. Amy felt like she couldn't really call the house her own because Jess had already claimed it. This all came to a head over something small that exploded: gardening. Amy has always loved gardening. She grew up helping her grandmother plant flowers and vegetables, and she often said how calming it was. She'd been wanting to start her own project since moving in. A few weeks ago, after dinner, she told me she wanted to redo the front yard, rip up the plain grass, plant flowers and shrubs, maybe add a little bench. I thought it was a great idea. The yard was dull, and she was excited about it, so I supported her. We decided to hire contractors to prep the yard properly. Amy even took time off work to oversee everything. Looking back, my mistake was not telling Jess. It's my house, so I didn't think I had to explain every change. But Jess had been there 6 years, and her kids played outside every day. Even if she didn't own it, I should have given her a heads up. On the day of the project, Amy stayed home to supervise. I was at work, completely unaware of the storm about to hit. The workers showed up, started digging up the lawn, and Amy said Jess ignored her at first. But when Jess realized what was happening, she flipped. She ran out in pajamas, furious that the kids' play space was being destroyed. She yelled at Amy, accusing her of ruining their yard. Amy tried to explain that she and I had discussed it, but Jess wasn't having it. She even screamed at the contractors to stop. Amy told her she didn't have the authority to make that call, but Jess fired back. "I've lived here for 6 years. You can't just tear up my home." It spiraled fast. Our neighbor Karen, a single mom Jess was friendly with, heard the shouting and came over. Karen immediately sided with Jess, demanding to know why she hadn't been told. Amy stayed calm, but Karen dismissed her, then escalated things by calling the police. Yes, the police. Karen told 911 that unlicensed workers were tearing up the yard and that the homeowner wasn't there. When the police arrived, Amy tried to explain that she was my wife and had permission. But the officers said since I wasn't home, she had to leave until things were clarified. They actually escorted my wife out of her own house. Meanwhile, I was at work, phone locked away in the warehouse. When I finally checked it, I saw a flood of missed calls from Amy. By the time I got home, Jess was sitting on the couch calmly scrolling on her phone while Amy was gone. I asked where Amy was. Jess shrugged. She left. The cops made her. The way she said it made my blood boil. She acted like the victim while my wife was thrown out of her home. When I pressed her, she said she had no choice but to call the cops. Amy had destroyed her kids' only play area. She went on about how she'd lived there 6 years and this was her home too. That's when I snapped. I told her, "This isn't your home, Jess. You're here because I let you stay. And now you've crossed a line, calling the cops and humiliating my wife." She cried, saying I was cruel, her kids had nowhere else to play, and I was choosing Amy over family. But I'd had enough. I told her she had 60 days to move out. She slammed her door and refused to talk to me. The next day I went straight to a lawyer. He explained that while Jess might try to claim some residency rights, she never paid rent and we had no written lease, so legally it was weak. He advised me to serve official notice, which I did. When I handed her the letter, she cried again. "You're really doing this?" I said yes, it was time. I felt awful, but I knew it wasn't just about the yard anymore. It was about respect, boundaries, and putting my marriage first. Amy came home the next morning relieved, and that confirmed I'd made the right call. Update: a week later, things escalated. Jess hired a cheap lawyer who claimed she had squatter's rights after 6 years. They even sent me a letter saying she had equal claim to the house. Luckily, I'd already spoken to an eviction specialist. My lawyer said Jess's case was extremely weak. No rent, no lease, all property documents under my name. And the yard incident actually worked against her, showing hostility toward the actual owners. But of course, our neighbor Karen is still stirring the pot. She posted on the neighborhood Facebook group, accusing me of kicking out a struggling single mom with kids. Despite all that, I'm standing firm. The eviction is in process, and this time I'm not backing down. Maybe some people will think I'm a bad brother, but after everything, I know I'm doing the right thing. She even tried to stage a protest in front of our house. My lawyer immediately issued her a cease and desist letter, pointing out that her actions could be considered harassment and obstruction of ongoing legal proceedings. That move completely backfired. But the most surprising twist was when the police showed up at Karen's door. Apparently, filing a false report about unlicensed construction isn't taken lightly. She could now be facing charges for making a fraudulent complaint. After that, Karen's entire demeanor shifted. She suddenly went quiet and hasn't spoken since. The neighborhood dynamic has also changed a lot. At first, several neighbors sided with Jess because she played the role of the struggling single mom so convincingly. But after the protest failed and her hidden finances came to light, their support evaporated. I found out Jess has been working part-time for the last 2 years, even though she always claimed she was too broke to move. My lawyer subpoenaed her financial records during the eviction proceedings, and it turned out she'd been saving quite a bit, not for rent or relocation, but for luxury vacations with her friends. Then came her so-called final move. Just yesterday, her lawyer offered a settlement. Jess would agree to leave quietly if I gave her $10,000 for relocation assistance. They argued she had contributed to the home by cleaning and maintaining it, so she deserved compensation. My lawyer responded perfectly. He sent back a detailed breakdown of 6 years of unpaid rent, utilities, property taxes, repairs, and legal costs, adding up to well over $100,000. He generously offered to waive all of that if she left peacefully. Unsurprisingly, her lawyer backed off immediately. Even our family's view has shifted. At first, some, including my mom, were conflicted. But after reviewing the police reports from the garden incident and learning about Jess's hidden income, most of them changed their tune. Mom herself called Jess to tell her she was out of line. Jess clearly wasn't expecting the family to back me. That was the breaking point for her. Amy has been incredible through all this, helping me keep records and reminding me that our security cameras caught Jess and Karen's behavior during the garden fiasco. That footage strengthened our case. On a brighter note, Amy's garden project is still alive. We've lined up new contractors, and she's working with a designer to make it even better once Jess is out. The hardest part has been the kids. Jess keeps using them to guilt me. My nephew even asked me why we don't love them anymore, which I'm sure came from something Jess told him. It tore me up, but I keep reminding myself this entire mess was created by her, not me. We're still within the 60-day notice period, but my lawyer says Jess's legal claims have collapsed. Ironically, by insisting she had tenant rights, she also legally confirmed I'm her landlord, which only strengthens my right to evict her. She started packing slowly, which tells me she's finally facing reality. Her attorney has probably told her dragging this out would only waste money. I'll post more when there's a major change, but my guess is she'll either leave a little early to save face or wait until the very last minute out of spite. Either way, we're ready. Update 2, Karen's troubles got worse. After the police investigated, she was hit with misdemeanor charges for her false report. She even tried apologizing and begged us to drop it, but the prosecutor is pushing forward. Turns out she's done this to other neighbors too. To top it off, our homeowner's insurance company went after her for increased premiums and legal costs. The payout from that alone is helping us build an even better garden than we first imagined. Jess made one last desperate attempt about 2 weeks before eviction. She tried to claim first possession, arguing she had partial ownership of the house because she'd lived here for 6 years. When my lawyer presented detailed records of her rent-free stay and my sole ownership documents, her third attorney dropped the claim almost immediately. Family dynamics shifted further in our favor. Cousins revealed Jess had been quietly running a small online business from my address for over a year. She never disclosed the income, and she even registered the business at my house. That's now being reviewed by the authorities. When moving day arrived, I hired professional movers and security staff to make sure it went smoothly. Jess tried to stir up more drama, insisting some of my belongings were hers. The movers were already briefed with a full inventory and photos from when she moved in, so her claims went nowhere. Her final act was to damage the house on her way out. She loosened cabinet handles and poked small holes in window screens, thinking she'd get away with it. What she didn't realize was that our security cameras caught everything. My lawyer will be suing her for damages based on that footage. The kids were the hardest part again. My nephew left a handwritten note saying he'd miss his home, which broke me. But I reminded myself, Jess never even set up a savings account for their future despite her secret money. One day they'll see who truly cared. The very next day, Amy's garden finally began. The transformation has been incredible. We even added a safe play space for neighborhood kids, showing we're not the villains Jess painted us as. The support from neighbors has been overwhelming. Many came forward with stories of how Jess had manipulated them, including an elderly couple she borrowed money from every month for medical bills. With legal help, they're now recovering that money. Karen got her comeuppance too. At a neighborhood association meeting, she tried defending her actions, but another neighbor brought up her long history of stirring trouble. She was removed from the neighborhood watch and banned from leadership roles. For the first time in years, the house feels truly ours. We've repainted, replaced the damaged carpets, and I finally built the home office I'd always wanted. Amy's garden is becoming a local attraction, so beautiful that a community gardening group wants to feature it in their annual tour. The legal outcome was better than I could have hoped. In the final court hearing, Jess's undeclared business income was exposed. The judge didn't hold back, condemning her for abusing both my generosity and tax laws. The eviction was upheld, and we were awarded damages and legal fees. Hearing the judge talk about the exploitation of family goodwill felt like justice. Neighbors who once avoided us because of the drama have since apologized. One family even hosted a cookout and admitted they'd also been misled by Karen and Jess. It turns out this pattern of manipulation extended far beyond just us. The most surprising result is how it reshaped my family ties. The cousins who exposed Jess's online business now visit often, and my mom has found peace with the outcome. She even told me watching how Amy and I handled things showed her that sometimes tough love is necessary. Now she comes by often, helping Amy plant flowers and enjoying the calmer environment. A week ago, we received an unexpected letter from Jess's oldest child. He apologized for things he'd said during the move and explained he wrote it on his own, without his mom's influence. That gave us hope that one day we can rebuild that relationship. The restraining orders against both Jess and Karen were granted last month. The judge even said our evidence was some of the most thorough she'd ever seen. My lawyer's final report put everything into perspective. In 6 years, Jess had essentially cost me nearly $150,000 in unpaid rent, utilities, and damages. The court awarded much of it, though I doubt I'll ever see the money. Still, having it on record feels like a victory. I regret enabling Jess for as long as I did, but cutting her off was the right decision. Sometimes doing what's necessary means being seen as the bad guy. Amy and I can finally enjoy our home in peace, knowing it's truly ours and legally protected. If you're in a similar situation, my advice is, document absolutely everything, get a skilled lawyer, and don't let emotional guilt override your rights. It was a tough road, but persistence paid off. Now our home is finally ours again, and justice was more satisfying than I ever imagined. Lastly, thank you to everyone here for the advice and encouragement throughout this saga. Your comments, legal tips, and personal stories kept me going, and whoever suggested the security cameras, you saved us. Now, if you'll excuse me, Amy needs my help planting the butterfly section of her garden. When you finally have your own space, the possibilities are endless. And don't forget, tap the bell icon to keep up with more shocking real-life stories happening around you. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a comment, hit subscribe, follow for more, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss the next one.